So now I'd like to go through each of the stages of the process in a little bit more detail. And we'll use D-Lab's Fuel from the Field charcoal project as an example. The first stage is to identify an opportunity for design. This could be a gap in the market. It could be an underutilized resource that could be used to gain value, or it could be a problem or challenge that's been articulated by a user. Different tools that can be used in order to identify opportunities include observation, having discussions with focus groups, interviewing people, or running co-design sessions. In the case of the Fuel from the Fields project, the opportunity came out of a trip that we took to Haiti. We learned that the country was 98% deforested and that this had a huge impact on people's lives and their livelihoods. It affected agriculture, it led to environmental degradation around the planet, and it led to a scarcity of resources. So this was an opportunity where we thought we might be able to make a difference. The next stage of the process is framing the problem. This is where you identify what part of the opportunity you're going to address with your design. The first part of this is to learn as much as you can about the problem and about the opportunity. It's important to understand the context, to identify resources and gaps, to understand the user needs and to translate those into design requirements, and to identify existing solutions in this space. Tools that can be used in order to help with this process include observation, talking to focus groups and doing interviews, experiencing the challenge and the situation yourself, and also leading co-design sessions. In the case of our example, the Fuel from the Fields project, we learned as much as we could about the causes of deforestation. And one of the things that we learned is that charcoal production was one of the biggest contributors to this problem. Nearly 8 million trees are cut down every year to provide cooking fuel for people in Haiti. And although they understand the environmental consequences of this, there's no other real option for them in terms of affordable cooking fuels. So we set about learning as much as we could about charcoal, as much as we could about the way that people use charcoal, about charcoal markets, and about how charcoal is made. The next phase of problem framing is to generate ideas for different ways that you could look at the problem. So you'd want to look at different aspects of the problem. You'd like to look at it from different people's points of view. You'd like to think about the gaps that exist and also the opportunities. There are many different techniques for ideation, which include brainstorming, brainwriting, by association, constraint distortion, and paradigm shifting. We'll explore each of these in later sessions of this course. In the case of the Fuel from the Fields project, we thought of many different ways you could address the challenge of deforestation caused by the production of charcoal for cooking fuel. One way you could look at it would be to think about reforestation as a way of producing more wood in order to produce cooking fuel. Another way to look at it would be to think about how you could adapt existing cook stoves to be more effective in their use of cooking fuel. Yet another way would be to create another form of charcoal that didn't require you to cut down trees. And another possibility would look at, could there be ways that you could develop new food sources that didn't require as much energy to prepare? The next phase of problem framing is to experiment, to get feedback on the framings that you developed, and to verify your assumptions. This can be done through many ways, through interviews and focus groups, also by doing value calculations to see what sort of impact your framings might have. Another tool is an impact innovation matrix, which allows you to think about the degree of impact and the opportunity for innovation that your framings have. Another important tool is to develop a problem framing statement that you can get feedback on. For the charcoal project, we got feedback on the various problem framings that we developed, and we also thought about what the capability was that D-Lab had in order to create an effective solution within these problem framings. We don't have a lot of experience in deforestation and reforestation, so we didn't think that that would be an effective area for us to work. We also knew that many people are looking at redesigning cook stoves, and we thought that we might not be able to add much to that field. There's a lot of behavior change associated with introducing a new type of food, and we thought that this would be a big barrier to overcome. So we decided to look at creating an alternative cooking fuel. We put together this problem statement and we ran it by a number of people, and we got positive feedback on this. So this was the problem framing that we moved forward with, that we would create an affordable, environmentally friendly cooking fuel that would help to meet the cooking needs in Haiti. The next phases of the design process are around creating a solution and then refining it. In this case, you want to research existing or related solutions, understand user needs, translate those user needs into design requirements, and then choose an approach. Once you have an approach, you would build a prototype and then test it and get feedback, identify problems, and then continue to go through this process and refine it until you end up with a viable product. The next stage is to develop an implementation plan for getting your product out into the field and into the hands of those people who could use it. It's important to think about the scale and to identify partners that could help you to implement the project. It's also important to think about the supply chains and the many components that are necessary to support a product in the field. There are many tools that you can use to help design an implementation, such as market surveys and focus groups. And you can even set up a mock shop so that you can see what types of products people will purchase and what price they'll pay. For the charcoal project, we set up a program called the Harvest Fuel Initiative, and we partnered with many entrepreneurs and enterprises in order to learn about different possible mechanisms for getting our product to the market. Once you have an implementation plan, then it's time to think about transitioning out of the design phase. You'd like to see the product adopted or integrated into the operations of an organization. This could be through government programs or companies. It could be through non-government organizations, small and medium enterprises, social enterprises, or through individuals. For the charcoal project, we were able to work with a wonderful innovator named Betty Ikalan, who worked in the Soroti region of Uganda on a women's initiative to help improve their access to cooking fuel. And she adopted the project, starting with the charcoal press that we had developed at D-Lab, but then later was able to increase her scale of production, and we continued to work with her to develop new mechanisms and machines to increase the production in order to satisfy the market. Betty's been a great partner on this project and has won many awards for the work that she's done in bringing alternative cooking fuels to the women of the Soroti region of Uganda. I encourage you to learn more about her project.